Okay, so today I'm going to talk just for a short time about how to create an MLA 8th edition works cited page, which will be required at the end of your paper. And this is one site that I'm going to put on Google Classroom, and it should be your main resource for finding out what you need to put into a works cited page. Modern Language Association is the authority. They are the ones who decide what needs to go into italics and what needs to have quotes around it and in what order you're putting stuff on your works cited page, among other things that have to do with formatting. Okay, so this page does give you basically the philosophy behind the works cited page. Any entry is going to start with the author's name. You would put the last name, comma, first name. If there is no author listed, then you would just skip it and start with the title of the source. If you're using an article, the title of the article will go into quotation marks. And then the title of the container would be the larger piece that it's within. So if it's a chapter in a book, the container is the book. If it is an article of a newspaper, then the newspaper is the container. It could be a magazine, it could be a website. Okay, so those containers are things that are larger, that are holding pieces of information within them. If there are other contributors, such as an editor, you would put those in a version number, such as an edition, the number, such as a volume, and the publisher would be located, as I talked about last time, usually at the bottom of a website or in the copyright information. Publication date and location can be included in there as well. When I was a student, we learned from the handbook how to cite everything manually. And I think with the tools that we have today, it's good for you to know the philosophy behind it so that you know what to look for, but it would not make sense for us to not teach you how to use the tools that are available out there. So I do have I'm going to put on Google Classroom this guide to MLA 8 as well. This is put out by Easybib, but basically it's a free version of the MLA handbook, and it shows you how to cite any source. So if you need to cite a video and you're not sure if Easybib is doing it properly for you, because remember, it is a machine, it's a tool, and it's not perfect, then you can come to this source and look for the type of resource that you are trying to cite and look for examples on there, and it will tell you how to do it. There is a table of contents on here, so you can use that to guide you as well. So those will be on Google Classroom for you, but I'm going to give an example of how I would create my works cited page using Easybib and using the databases. So I will always start with Easybib because it does the formatting for me, and then I don't have to worry about creating a hanging indent or getting the font correct, the spacing. Instead, it's all going to be done for me, and it will be on the document, and then it will be easy for me to input other stuff later. Whether you have a website, a book, a video, or film, I know some of you are doing TED Talks, a journal, you can choose any of these. Please don't use database on here at this point. The databases that we are using at our school don't work well with Easybib. When you stick it into Easybib, it changes it and makes it incorrect. So use websites, use books, use videos on Easybib, and then databases, we're going to have a separate way of adding that on. MLA 8 is the default, but just double check to make sure it's highlighted because we want to use the latest edition. So let's say that my topic is mass incarceration and I'm using this article from the New York Times. Websites are really easy. All I have to do is copy the link and then paste it into Easybib. Raise your hand if you've done that before. Okay, great. You know how to do that much. That's important. And then you need to, apparently it's gathering information right now. Okay, here it is. If it gives you more than one on here, just double check the information to make sure you're selecting the right one. Otherwise, just hit Cite This. And then continue to the final step. When you get to this part, this is the part that I want to urge you to use your sense. Okay, you do know how to capitalize a title. So if your title shows up in here in all caps or not capitalized in a way that you think is the way that you've been taught, you should fix it because MLA format is the way that you've been taught to capitalize titles. So if it shows up in all caps here, that's wrong and it needs to be fixed, and Easybib just didn't fix it for you. So check the title, make sure that it is capitalized properly. In this case, it is. And then check the author, make sure that everything is in there correctly. It usually is. Sometimes something random will show up in there if your website is a little different. The website title should be there, and then the publisher is something that I think you should often check, because a lot of times the publisher will show up as something different at the bottom of the page. So as we can see here, it's the New York Times Company. So we're just going to add that on to make it extra accurate. New York Times Company would be the publisher. And then the URL is optional for MLA 8. In college, your professor will probably tell you whether or not they want you to have the URL on there. When in doubt, just ask. They might just say that they don't care. And I'm in that position. I don't care. But be consistent with your choice. So either choose to use URLs in all of your entries that are websites or web-based, or don't use them at all. But make a choice and stick with it. And then you want to check the publication date and make sure that that is correct as well. That's usually right at the top of the article, and in this case, that's correct. Okay, so now I'm ready. I've double-checked all my information. I only needed to fix one little tiny thing, and then I hit Create Citation. Now my citation is showing up here, so I'm going to tell you not to do something now. Do not copy and paste this into a document, because then you have to go format the whole thing, and that's kind of a problem. So just keep it here. Cite all of your sources first. So if this was for my counterclaim, I would do the same thing, copy and then paste into the box over here. I'm just going to do one more as a website, so stay with me. I'll cite this, continue to the final step, and then I'm just going to check through. Capitalization looks good. There's only one author. That looks fine. If there were more authors, I could hit Add Another Contributor. The title of the website is fine. I do know that this is the publisher or sponsor. The URL looks fine and the date looks fine. So I'll hit Create Citation. So let's imagine that I have all of my web-based sources done. The only thing that I have left are databases. I am going to wait on the databases, and this is the most important part. If you are not paying attention right now, get your eyes on the screen. Okay, hit Export, and then save to Google Docs. The reason that I want you to do it this way is this is the formatting part. So when you export it, it puts everything into perfect formatting for you, and I think this is what Easybib does really well once you've checked all of the information. So once you go here, click on Go to Google Docs, and you will have your work cited here. I typically change what it's called right away just so it's easier to find as a file later. I don't know. Maybe I'll add something to that later. And then I have my work cited. It's alphabetized, everything is in the correct format, and now I just need to add my databases on. Okay, so databases, we have BadgerLink, SIRS, and, oops, we better refresh this page before it just logged me out. Okay, anyways, we have opposing viewpoints, SIRS, and BadgerLink that we're using. You can find the citation for an article on opposing viewpoints at the bottom of the article or on the right-hand side where it says Citation Tools. And you can change the format. You want the MLA 8th edition. And for this, I am going to have you copy and paste. You'll notice that the citation is longer than your other ones, and that is because you now have an extra container, which is the database. So that's normal if it looks really long. Go ahead and copy it, and then find where it would fit in here alphabetically, and then make a space for it and paste it in. So you'll notice the formatting is not fitting. What is fitting properly is that the hanging indent is in there. I can show you how to do a hanging indent manually as well. It's just kind of cumbersome on Google Docs. It's easier on Microsoft, but just be aware that it's easier if you don't have to do it yourself. Okay, if you're on BadgerLink, there's also a cite button over here, and it would be the same with SIRS too. It also has a cite button. So you would just click on that, and then it would give you the citation if it works properly. Okay, so we'll just pretend that my internet is working really well, and I'm going to go back to this. Once I have all of my sources cited on here, I need to format them, and I wouldn't do this one at a time. I would wait until all my sources are on here, and then I would just make everything highlighted. Times New Roman, size 12. This is the main thing that you have to do with databases that people often miss and make it look unprofessional. Text color needs to be black. And then sometimes it will add some highlighting on there, so you want to take off the highlighting. And then I have a perfect works cited page. I don't need to do anything else. You can see that that didn't take me very much time. It probably won't for you either. If you have questions though, and you come to a point where you're not sure if your works cited is looking right, just ask me and I am available for help. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead